What's up, folks? Welcome back to the show. We got episode 16 here of Outside the Lab, brought to you by the Performance Center and powered by Under Armour. It's Wednesday night, so we're staying inside the organization. We got Audra Harrison, strength and conditioning and performance coach, with us on the call tonight. Very, very happy to bring her on, talk about all the great things she's doing and kind of where our strength and conditioning is heading. So appreciate Audra hopping on the call tonight.
Of course.
Well, let's get right into it, Audra. Let's talk about your background. Talk us through, high school playing days, coaching days, being halfway across the country and then coming back to Hickory. So tell us where you're coming from.
I grew up in Hickory, Mountain View, actually. My dad had 5 daughters, poor guy, and I'm the youngest of all 5. So I kind of was tagging along everywhere, everybody, wherever they went. The 2 sisters in the next order from me were the first ones to really get into playing sports. So my farthest memory of sports is being at the Mountain View Rec softball, baseball field. And I was just playing handball with those like plastic cups that you smash together. I play handball with kids I didn't even know for, 6-7 hours at a time. My mom and dad were in charge of running the concession stand there, and actually built that second edition there. We were driving by it the other day and we're talking about all that. So, everybody gets to start somewhere. I just remember always wanting to play, and it didn't matter what I was playing. I just wanted to play and be involved. Then as I progressed up, obviously my sisters were playing volleyball, basketball, softball. I kind of followed in that path. Getting to watch older kids growing up, especially my siblings. I didn't at the time how important that was, but it helped develop me as I started to appreciate their abilities, and that's what I strived to do and to be. So by the time I was playing on my own, elementary school, middle school, I was practicing with the high school team. Linda Richards was in the area one of the best, if not the best, coaches and technician in the sport of volleyball, and I grew up under her tutelage. And she had the same expectations of me when I was 5 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old as she did of her high school players. So it was instilled in me very early how to execute, how to be consistent, and if I didn't, what were the repercussions? So as that translated into middle school ball, high school ball, I always felt like I was the leader on the court, regardless of my age, started or not. I always felt like I was coaching players whenever I was playing. And at the time, I didn't realize how important that was going to be for my personal development. But looking back on it now, I'm like, well, I was the court coach, and that's kind of the role that I really latched onto. And high school, we didn't lose because we were always better than the other team, but we didn't lose because we had the skills to put the pieces together to beat whatever was on the other side of the net. And that's kind of how I approach everyday life now. It's something where, I've got a kid coming into the facility and they have XYZ wrong with them. Well, how am I going to help them to beat what's wrong? At Ford, I think in my 4 years there, we lost maybe like 5 total games. We won 2 state championships while I was there. And it just, volleyball was just a part of who I was. I was an athlete, and that's how I related. I didn't have time for video games. I didn't have time to, just go out and do stuff. We weren't allowed to go to football games. We had to rest up because we were always playing on Saturdays. So that's kind of the era that I grew up in. Translating that competitive mentality to basketball, it was very similar. We were always a good team, not always great, but we were good. And it's just a different vantage point when you're playing. And I wasn't always the most athletic because I'm pretty small, especially for volleyball and basketball. I'm 5'8". I always claimed I was 5'10", but that's a big lie. But when you're undersized, you have to outdo somebody in some regard. And playing college volleyball, I was little, I was small, but I was quicker than a lot of people trying to block me on the other side of the net. Athletically, I was more explosive. I had a pretty good vertical. For most of my career, I ended up having several injuries. I blame my father's genetics for that. But, it's just something that was instilled in me growing up, was to be a competitor, a kid that steps into the athlete's lab they know that they're there for a reason. They're there to not just compete, but to get better as a person. And every coach that's there is pushing them to do that every single time. So, college experience playing, our coaches did a great job getting us all over the country to play. I remember my sophomore year, we opened up at the University of Washington the year after they won the national championship. So we were their opening game of the year, and they killed us, but it was so cool at school. So I was always kind of on the rehabilitative state in my college playing days. Some of those kids just had a grit that you can't teach. It's something that they're almost born with. I remember my second year there, we started out 18-0. We were ranked up to 13th nationally before our first loss, which is against the team who was ranked 4th. They were in our conference. So, still a really high level of play. I learned a lot there. I was doing the recruiting. I was helping with on-campus visits. That's pretty much where I learned how, as a coach, I had to recruit people and I had to talk to people. I was 21 years old. I was doing my thing and, waking up, being responsible the next morning and having to talk to parents about why I want your kid to come to school. It taught me a lot about how to engage with people of different walks of life. And those 2 years there, my academic experience was incredible. I got to work with a lot of different people. Somebody who's now at the Olympic Training Center. I still keep in contact with several of those people. We actually got to work with some of the U.S. cycling team in our lab. So it was a really cool experience. Graduated there and moved back home for what was only a 2-month stint. And I got my first college coaching job at the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. So, when everybody says it's about who you know, that is a lot to do with how you get to where you are. But, that's kind of how I'm at the athletes lab too, is about who I know. But, getting to a William and Mary to sell myself. And that was the first time as a real adult, I was like, this is why you need to hire me. And I was recruiting myself at the time. So, I've always had like a scope mentality, like how is this helping me progress as a person? And, when I was at William and Mary, I had 5 seasons there as a Division I college coach and just absolutely changed my mentality of everything. I got to see the inner workings of, the business office and how we had to work with them and the budgeting. I was in charge of travel. I was in charge of off-season conditioning. I was in charge of in-season conditioning. I had a lot more responsibilities where I was like, I have to apply my knowledge to act now. And, it's not a test anymore. It's people. And so those 5 years were probably the most developmental of my professional life. So up to this point. So.
Man, there's a ton of good things there, all the way back from, and you went from 5 to where you're at now, and a ton of good things. I was going to stop you, like, hey, let's talk about that, but just let me keep rolling. But man, takeaways for me were, competing from a young age. You're talking about wall ball, and I can remember doing that too at the high school, just constantly playing and competing and different sports, making sports up, but just out there having a good time. Leadership, I think a lot of our folks, our kids think, well, I'll become a leader when I'm a senior, like it's some kind of rite of passage. And that's not the way it is. Like leadership, that respect and that right is earned. And if you're a freshman leader, then, you're the guy or you're the girl, but everybody knows that. So, awesome stuff there. And then just the winner's mentality. You talk about sacrifice, things that you didn't necessarily get to do that other kids would do in high school and losing 5 games and all this, and you get to college and it's like, whoa, eye-opening. So can certainly relate to that. And I'll tell you another big thing you talked about and hit there was communication. On all these. I told a guy the other day and we're talking to all these college coaches on these calls, and it seems like every guy mentions communication and the ability to talk to people, like you said, have a conversation, have a personality. That goes a long way. And we'll get to relationships that you've built at Athletes Lab in a short amount of time and done a great job. So let's talk about this now. So you maybe talked about it a little bit with, having to rehab and your experiences with injuries and coming back, and then obviously your major, but kind of how and when did you know that, performance and strength and conditioning and that side of things is really where I want to focus in on?
I'd say it was probably about my third or fourth year at William and Mary. The college, the coaching staff I was with, I'm still good friends with them to the day. One lives in Illinois, one still lives in Virginia. We ended up going to a performance center in the area, it was CrossFit style training. I got back into being a competitive mentality physically because of all my injuries and ailments. I couldn't really play like I was, and every time I did, I was rupturing a meniscus. So I had to really dial it back a little bit. But I was in that facility, and there's something when there's a clock on it, and like do 50 push-ups, 50 air squats, and run a 400 meter for time, and you're like, oh man, I've really got to push myself. And that mentality like started being revived inside of me on the athletic side without being an athlete. So I got into that about 2011, into that facility. And as I was a witness of how they were training people and seeing how they were training different styles of people, it was something I became really curious about. When my head coach at William & Mary, Melissa Shelton, gave me the opportunity of training the college kids for all of their conditioning in season and out of season, I realized the importance of programming and timing of programming. And, if you want them to have a certain outcome, you have to generate that, that process months ahead. And so that, that forward thinking started with me early years at William & Mary. I knew about my 5th season at coaching at William & Mary that my heart was in performance. I saw so many kids come to our program, great kids, but athletically they were behind. They were coming in as freshmen, either injured, previously injured, getting injured early in the season, or just not able to ever catch up athletically. And I knew, that was a travesty. These kids are wanting to play a game they love just like I did. And I was injured, and I know how heartbreaking that was for me. And I just wanted to help in whatever capacity I could keep that from happening on and on and on. So that's when I got the opportunity to work at that facility. I ended up stopping coaching full time, and I went over and trained at that facility full time. I was a coach and trainer there. So, and being in that facility, we were open to everybody. We had a swim team, we had a football team, we had, somebody military trying to be an Army Ranger. We had special ops. We had a lady that wanted to do CrossFit classes. So my ability to change the dynamics of what I needed them to do started there. And it was like day one, it's like I had a range of a 7-year-old to a 70-year-old. How am I going to make them better? In what capacity? So when I started, I knew this is what I needed to do. Be able to help people, not just athletes, but, adults. They have things they want to do too, and how can I do that as a person and make sure that they're getting the best experience possible? So.
Sure. Couple good things there. And one thing, you talk about competing for time with your CrossFit. Yeah. It's awesome. And what you're hitting on there at the end was kind of a great segue for where I wanted to go next. So you've had, rehab, CrossFit, athletes, you're talking about special ops, Army Rangers, the 80-year-old lady, young kids. I mean, you're dealing with everybody. Yeah. in every kind of training that you can think of. Now you throw Vertimax in the mix. So how do you take all that and meet people where they're at, whether it's the 80-year-old lady or the 7-year-old kid, the guy trying to go to be an Army Ranger? How does all that come together?
A lot of it's relationship building, getting to know the person, why they're there, what their investment is, whether it's a financial investment, a health investment. I've always had ability to kind of read people, and that grew, that started when I was young and I was hanging around with my friends, and all their friends were older. So as a young kid, I learned how to read populations and, situationally figure things out. And I have a group of 6 kids come in. They're all going to be at different levels. They're all going to be maybe different ages if we don't specify. My ability as a coach is to make sure everybody gets the workout that they need for their level. And a lot of that is visual. I can look at somebody move one time and see where they need to regress or progress. And that's, the benefit of being in all those domains, whether it's the personal training, group training, which is a little bit more difficult because you have more bodies to analyze. You kind of have to triage issues with groups. It goes, safety, and then goes into moving mechanics. But I've worked with a couple of people at the Athletes Lab already, and it's, I just tell them, I'm like, look, you give me what you can do, and it's my job to correct, to progress, and to walk you through this. At no point in my existence am I ever going to say you have to do something. If there's something that you want to do, or you can't do, or don't want to do, we have other things we can do. It's I want it to be an open platform and enjoyable, but at the same time, I'm going to work you. And that doesn't matter your age. I've got a current player's mom in there right now a couple times a week. And, just talking to her, I've worked with her 4 times and I feel like I know her, and, we're messaging each other in our off time. And that's just how you.
Before we get back on the talk about relationships, you talk about, if you don't want to try this, or you don't feel comfortable, we've always got something we can go to. And I've witnessed that with your online workouts. Hey, we're going to use the bands today, but if you don't have a band, don't worry, we can do this.
Yeah.
Or this is the movement. But if you're 60 years old and thinking there ain't no shot I can do this, I got something for you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So that adaptability is something that you've really been good at. But those relationships, they're awesome. And I know in your line of work, working closely with people, they're key. And I was on those team meetings last night. Aaron's telling these people, dude, Audra's been there since 5 o'clock, just waiting for somebody to talk to.
Waiting, man.
Just waiting to talk, and hey, let's work out. And folks listening, I really hope that you'll take it. Just Audra, but anybody in the facility. If we're not directly work with somebody, if we're hanging out, ask questions, talk. We want to be conversational and help. That's what we're here for. And kidding aside, Audra was just sitting there, and I know you said this before. Being fairly new, that you're trying to talk to everybody. Hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how I can help you. So those relationships are awesome, and it's really cool to see. You can go from talking to the athlete's mom, like you're talking to, straight to the middle school boy athlete. And how it all. You can meet anybody where they're at and help them out. So that's really cool. So all right, here we go. Vertimax.
All right.
Let's talk about it. So for 6 months now, all we've heard is Vertimax. We got a Vertimax. We got 3 Vertimaxes.
We got 3.
And there's still people out there who say, what's this deal with the cords coming out of it? What's this all about? So here's your chance. Tell us all about it. What's the Vertimax? Why is it important? How are we using it? Go ahead, run with it.
So it's funny. I was just having a conversation, or a messaging conversation this morning with a player. She's a volleyball player from my alma mater at Ford, and her mom was like, "Well, what is she going to be doing on it?" And I was like, "Oh man, you opened this up.
What isn't she going to be doing on it?
Yeah, she's going to do everything, but not today." It's and what the Vertimax is. It's a platform designed for constant resistance. Whether it's a vertical jump, which is the center of the platform, or you have several, all the cords you see, they are attached to a resistance band, right? So you have, I think it's 25 or 30 feet of linear distance you can maintain without any lack of tension, release of tension. So it's not going to inhibit training mechanics, or if you're a weaker athlete, it's not going to inhibit you from being able to move. Based on the tension level. But what it is going to do is give your body immediate feedback on how you're moving. If you're a young kid and you run with a really tall posture and you don't drive your knees, it's going to pull you back, right? Because you have resistance coming. We've got bands that connect to your hips where you can jump. You've got a band to go around your hip. We've got, the biggest thing I saw when I went to the seminar, the training seminar, was a hand strap and a leg strap. And the first thing I thought of was a basketball player going up for a layup, a contested shot. How many layups do you shoot a year? How many times is it contested? It's countless times. How is that movement going to get stronger in kids? They have to take actual practice and contact in a game, or can they practice it in a safe environment, controlled environment with resistance? And that, that's just where my brain went as soon as I saw that. The other thing, the guy I worked with, he was a strength coach for the Redskins, and he said the things that you can do with this are crazy. He has people fly from all over the country that are post-injury to train with him for 3 or 4 months at a time. They stay in Virginia to work out with him after injury. So the information he was portraying to us, I was like, this is incredible. You can do stability training, core training. Baseball players, we can attach a resistance to your hip. We can attach a resistance to your arm and, your wrist, and just working on through, driving the hip, dropping your hip on that contact, anything. It looks like a lot's going on, especially when I have, 3 or 6 athletes at a time in there. But, the amount of contact time they have with resistance is up to me as a programmer. So it's not like they're going to be going go for 30 straight minutes. The whole point of it is to reach that level of fatigue safely, right? But still giving your body that kinesthetic feedback without having, if I'm a lineman, without having to take hands and pushing back. So every sport is going to benefit from it once they get in there. I've already talk to Grant about getting, respective pieces of equipment for sports, tennis rackets, working on mechanics with that, volleyballs, basketballs, footballs, you name it, golf clubs, which I probably can't help with the swing, but I'll help your mechanics with the swing. So, it's a pretty expensive piece of equipment, and I don't think Grant would have bought 3 if he did not think that this area was going to hugely benefit from it. So
yeah. So, and I'm going to ask you a couple more things related to that. The first is, the whole time you're talking, the word functional comes to mind. We're not, we're doing this, and you talk about a skilled athlete. We're doing this to get better at our skill and at our sport, whether it's a tennis racket, baseball, catchers coming out of their stance to throw down. You name it, any sport, you can really do your movement on this thing and get better at it. And our baseball folks will relate to that because, we use bands all the time with arm care and things, but now we're taking it past that to literally every aspect of the sport you're playing. So the functionality can't be matched. Let me ask you this, because the first time that I came in contact with Vertimax was in college at Catawba. Our volleyball girls, they would use it all the time.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Vertimax has evolved. Like when they were using it, it was predominantly they were on the platform, squat jumps, lunges, split squat jumps. Now, I watched you the other day, and very little time is spent on the platform. You guys are out front, high knees, moving, shuttles. Talk about kind of that evolution of the Vertimax.
So a lot of young athletes now are not, in my opinion, that I've seen, strong enough in their hips to support a landing position. So especially when the group that you saw was a kind of a group of kids, some of them had never been on it before. So for me as a programmer, it would have been very irresponsible for me to have them jump for 30 minutes, especially if I'm asking for max effort continually. So what I like to do is when I'm programming for kids, once I know who they are, I know what they're capable of, that's when we, put them on the platform a little bit differently to get a different vertical dynamic. My biggest thing, having an injury background personally, and just to name them, 4 knees, complete shoulder, this shoulder's torn, not having surgery, hopefully. Wrist, foot, elbow. I've got a lot of things going on. I am a preventative mentality coach. I take athletes and I put them in the best possible position to prevent injury. And that starts from the bottom up. I'm not going to put a kid on the platform to do, 30 minutes of jumping if I don't think their hips can handle it. If I don't handle it, they don't have triple extension on their jump. They don't know what triple extension is. We've already got an issue. So that's why when I have them out front and I have them high knees, we're working on getting to that, toe pointed position, getting in that running position so that when we do make contact with the ground, the absorption of that momentum is is not taking a toll rep after rep after rep. So it's a lot of coaches will specifically have their kids jump because it's a Vertimax. Like the name is Vertimax, so vertical is what they typically think. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. They had us doing planks where the band was around your waist. So what you have is the weight, resistance pulling you. So you really have to stabilize one side of your body. And what the Vertimax does too, when I have them moving in a linear motion, it tells them which side of their body is weak in comparison to the other side. And it also tells them, if I have them try to land and not move and their knees are caving, then we got to strengthen those glutes. For me, it shows what their weak points are in their movement systems.
Gotcha. Last question related to the Vertimax. So I'm an athlete sitting at home and I'm thinking, man, I can go do this thing and not have to get underneath the squat rack, or I don't do power cleans or all this stuff. Debunk that myth for us and tell us how this is, like you're saying, just a piece of the puzzle that more, supplements what we're doing in the weight room.
Absolutely. The Vertimax is just a supplemental training. Oh, I knew it was going to happen. It's just a single piece of the puzzle as far as supplementally. If I were to recommend, a amount of time or days per week, I'd say 2 days a week on the Vertimax, 4 days a week in the weight room. And the reason for that is structural support. You've got to have that baseline structure. There's nothing that can change a squat. A squat is a squat, and it's going to be your best bet. But you've got to have that foundational strength to get on the platform and not have that involuntary movement once you get fatigued. It's also, when I tell people Vertimax is constant resistance, we're not working on change of direction. That comes with the speed agility groups. There's, what we're offering are pieces to make athletes better. In my opinion, there's nothing better than the strength room. There's nothing that's going to get kids to a different level than the strength room. Secondarily to that would be the footwork, speed, agility, and the mechanics. An athlete needs to have the resistance to injury, and that comes with that, structural, vertebral, skeletal support. So
gotcha. And I lied. I do have one more question.
Okay.
Tell us about now. I'm thinking about the 11, 12-year-old range, the guys and gals who are not quite in the weight room yet, but they're getting close to that point.
Yep.
And they need to be doing everything they can to prepare themselves for the moment when they're under that squat rack for the first time. So how does the Vertimax play into that as far as, teaching you how to control your body, proper form? I'm sure, body weight squats and things like that. How does it prepare the kid who's fixing to get into the weight room for what they're going to be experiencing?
What I do with that age group, especially if it's that age group consistently through the numbers, I do a lot of single leg stuff. Single leg stability, whether they're in a lunge position, they're in a holding, an isometric holding position. And that basically, that repetition of being able to hold their body in space, know what their body's doing in space, is what helps propel their bodies to be able to function as a whole unit once they do start to get to that actual weight training. When I tell kids, especially at that age, anything I have them do forwards, I make them do backwards. They're at the perfect age to learn how to move differently, right? So as we get older, don't ask me to, backpedal, turn, and sprint. I'm going to not trust my backpedal. At that age, those kids need to be able to do that, naturally. So anything we do on one leg, we do on the other. We do it facing all the different directions, so the resistance is from different angles. It basically is, proprioceptively, your body is figuring out how to stabilize in an unstable environment. And once your body can do just body weight, nothing else, whenever you are figuring out how to be stable and I put you under a bar, you've already got that foundational support of your structures. Everything's going to work a little bit more cohesively. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know we've got a lot of folks on our teams and in and out of the facility who are at that point and who will be listening to this. They're wanting to know, what can I do to prepare? Because I know that the strength room's coming. What can I do to get ready for that? So, all right. So we've mentioned the strength room, the Vertimax, speed and agility. We've got all this, all this equipment in the performance center. Anything we could need and use to help develop our athletes at a high level. Tell our folks, what all opportunities do they have with you in, you've got different sessions, different days. What all's out there for people to take advantage of?
Everything right now is going to be considered group training. But that's just because, we're not quite open. We don't have a lot of things going through. So it's not a selective opportunity. Vertimax training, 6 kids at a time, just because that's the best number with the work to rest ratio. Offering that anywhere from 6 to 8 times a week, 30-minute sessions. 30-minute sessions is about what they're going to maximize. Speed and agility, 30-minute sessions there too. That's working on, that explosive first step. How can I get the hips involved? What is your running mechanics? Where are you faulty? And, I compare it to baseball players when they're taking a lead off first, and they're taking that next step to get the second. Are you efficient or not? That split second of inefficiency, is where we're going to bridge that gap. So being efficient in how they're running, that's kind of the aim of the speed and agility groups. Same thing there, anywhere from 6 to 8 times a week. And then I've got them listed as 60 or 30-minute strength and conditioning sessions. It's kind of at the will of who wants to train. I can do either one. We can make the 30-minute session, a wham bam, get you going. It's going to be more body weight stuff because we're not going to have time to really work to that load. 60-minute session, I would recommend for every athlete in there to take at least 5 strength sessions with Coach Ryan or myself, just so you can learn the proper mechanics. I've seen some terrible squats in there, and a short range of motion squat's not going to get you the benefit. Your hamstrings aren't going to be doing the work, and we need the hamstrings for every movement that we do. So, but they don't know that until they actually get in there. We've Ryan and I, meeting him for the first time and working together, we're basically the same person as far as programming goes. He programmed the first 5 sessions I was with him exactly how I would have. And I think what athletes are going to get in there with the strength portion is consistency from coaches. Maybe not the same lifts, but that's a preference. But consistency in what we're looking for and what's going to keep them safe but get them stronger. So most of those are the group sessions. You can always schedule individual sessions. I feel like kids thrive a little bit more in groups. Speed and agility is easily done one-on-one, but 2 to 3 kids at a time would be tremendous, just to give that downtime while one kid's finishing their sprint, the next kid can go. Constant feedback. And then you can always schedule individual stuff. If there's an issue, like I had somebody already say that their shoulder's hurting. What are things that they can do? You can always talk to us. We can schedule something. We can get you going. I don't want anybody to go unnoticed or unheard in there. I'll talk to everybody. It doesn't faze me to answer questions. I absolutely love helping in that regard. But
that's one thing. Let me stop you. That's one thing I want to mention so that folks don't misunderstand this. We've got Ryan and we've got Audra, but that doesn't mean that Ryan is 100% with the males and is 100% with the females. That is not the case. Audra and Ryan, they're there for everybody. They're our strength conditioning performance coaches. They'll work with everybody in there, and I want to make sure that's clear. So
yeah. And Ryan and I, we're going to kind of piggyback our schedules. So it might work out that, Ryan's available the days of the week that certain kids are. It's, he and I are both at the same, idea. It doesn't matter who you work with. We just want you working. And we want you doing it well. My schedule is whatever is available for me. And it also, I think he's the same way. We can also change what's on there. If it's not set in stone and you have a kid that wants to come in and do Vertimax on Tuesday, but it doesn't show Vertimax on Tuesday with me, let me know. we can make changes. It's not set in stone. I want kids to have opportunities, and I don't care, when or where. So.
Gotcha. That's awesome. And I tell you, the thing I keep going back to, I think you've mentioned like half a dozen sports talking about this, is how functional and how you can apply all of this stuff straight to your sport. I don't care if it's baseball, if it's volleyball, if it's tennis, whatever you're doing, all of this stuff applies and is going to help, keep propelling you to that next level. And that's what it's all about. That's why Ryan and Audra are here. Let's finish up here because, I'm listening to this and I'm jacked up, ready to get into the Performance Center and get working. But not everybody can. And what I mean by that, for folks who don't know, Audra's been doing our online workouts, phenomenal stuff twice a week. And this really blew my mind. We got this spreadsheet of all the people who are, dialing into these things. We got like 5 states. We got North Carolina, Virginia, Kentucky, Texas, South Carolina, people from all across the nation who are signed up, registered to work with Audra. Obviously, not all those folks are going to be able to come down to the Performance Center, but I know because they've reached out and said, hey, how can we keep working out with Audra? We love Audra. We love her personality, how she pushes us, holds us accountable. So talk to those people. Are the online workouts going to continue? How are those folks going to have a chance to still work out with you and hear from you, even as we open and the focus turns more toward inside the facility?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really concerned when everything happened about virtual workouts because I don't like watching myself do anything. So
it's weird.
it's so weird. I have downstairs in my home gym and it's quiet and I have a computer screen. I hear myself and I see myself and like, that's it. But the cool thing is, the very first session for the virtual workout, I was really nervous. I was like, am I going to give everybody the workout that they need wherever they are? And as soon as we started rolling, I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what it needs to be at this point in everybody's training, because the people that are logged on are the people that actually want to get better. Yep. And whatever I put together for them, they're doing it. And I'm doing it too. And it's almost like it makes you a little bit closer and more connected. There's several people on there who I feel like I know now. I've never actually met them in person.
I know that was you're talking yesterday. Like, I feel like I get a tour of everybody's house. You're in there in the living room getting after it. It's kind of a more, even though you're not together, it is kind of an intimate setting. You can see everybody and they're at home and the dog comes running across the screen and it's cool to watch it all play out.
It is. And, I was really hesitant, but I'm really excited to actually keep this going. I think it's going to be imperative for a lot of people. You've done I can't even thank you enough. You've done a tremendous job on being on every single workout, recording them and keeping a database of them. I forwarded your email to a couple people and they've already thanked me, like, we're going to use these when we're out of town. It's actually, I think it's made people realize we're not as dire as we probably were. It's helped me have to change my training style because I can't breathe when I'm talking. And, it's actually helped me become a better athlete and a coach. We are going to continue doing them. I don't know the set date. I think we said June 1 was going to be the set date. We're going to keep doing them for, whatever duration. If we change the time, we change the time. We'll have to just kind of see. But we are going to do a weekly fee of 2 sessions. What is I don't know.
Like $5, something very minimal. Yeah.
$5 for 2 sessions. And I'm still going to get you the link to the workouts. But speaking to the people in out of state, those are everybody I've worked with, I feel like is my person. I have a deep rooted connection with people. The lady in Texas, I only worked with her for a couple months in Virginia, but she was gritty. She moved to Texas about the time I moved back to North Carolina and big golfer. Really just wanted to work on being stronger, being able to walk the 18 holes. And, look at her now. She's still reaching out. She's doing the things on her end. Couple of the other kids up there were my softball or soccer kids. And, whether they're there because they want to work out or, one of them's actually told me that she logs on every time just so she can work with me again. That's really cool. And that's one of the reasons I love what I do. I get to impact people Maybe I don't feel like that every single day, but at the end of the day, there's going to be those people that log on to whatever it is, and they're there because they want to get better, and that's the mutual interest. And some of the relationships I've built with people through exercise, whether I was coaching them, working out with them, or whatever avenue, are some of the best people to have as contacts and points of reference. So
that's awesome. And folks, listen, I think you can definitely see the passion, the connection that you're going to get when you come in and work with Audra. And this has been awesome, Audra. But I'm gonna stop it here. Any final word, any final thought, comment that you want to leave our listeners with before we get off?
Y'all just come on and trust us. Everybody at the Athletes Lab, we're here. The facility is top rate. There's nothing like it in the area. My sister in Florida even said she took her son, who's been in the Athletes Lab, down to a facility down there. And my mom was like, they're trying to be you guys, but they don't have it. They don't have what y'all have. What we're offering here in a little bit with some packages coming out is unbeatable price. It's a one-stop shop. You can get, an hour and a half of whatever work you need, and you're going to be golden. You're going to already excel just by coming in there and putting in the work. It is, I respect everybody that comes in there. Doesn't matter how many times a week, but I see you wanting to get better at your craft, and that is probably the most respectful way I can approach it. If I see you in there working, I want to help you. I love what I do. I don't work. I have fun. This is it's incredible. Like, I come home and I'm like, that was cool. Like, I'll do it again tomorrow. So
yeah, fantastic. That's awesome. And yeah, like Audra said, folks, get in there. Once you're there, I think you'll be hooked. I know most people are. So, and hopefully we'll be opening full scale pretty soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
But Audra, can't thank you enough for your time. This has been awesome. Folks listening, I know you've enjoyed it. If you're anything like me, you're ready to get in the facility right now. So fantastic stuff. Episode 16, thanks again, brought to you by the Performance Center and powered by Under Armour. We'll catch you next time.
All right. Thank you.